AGN football. Now, we've got two clubs shrouded in rivalry, history, bad-tempered games, and many moments over the years. Pizzagate, Tunnelgate, Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and Martin Keown. It is a big rivalry, a historic rivalry, and one that is written in football folklore and legend. I have been speaking a lot about Manchester United as a club this summer, and I've had a lot to say about Erik ten Hag, Ineos, and many other Manchester United related things. Arsenal versus Manchester United these days, both sets of fans understand that we want to take down the Manchester City juggernaut who is running on 115 charges, and the Premier League have done nothing. So what better way to talk about that more, the historic moments, the rivalry, and many famous moments over the years than with a Manchester United fan. Stay tuned. I've got one coming up on the channel. Hello, welcome back to AGN Football. Yes, it's a new name, but it encompasses all things football and all things Arsenal. So we've got Ben here from United Talks. We've had a very good conversation on his channel about the best Arsenal United 11 of all time. We had a really good fun picking players out. And we're going to talk today about a little bit of Arsenal, a little bit of United, and a few different football, great sort of football folklore. So we'll get straight into it. How are you, mate?
I think one of the reasons we can appreciate both each other's respective great players is because of the Arsenal versus United rivalry, and we'll get onto that. But it was just such an amazing time to be alive. I wish I got to see it, because when it was at its peak, Keane, Vieira and everything, and Arsene Fergie, just unreal.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're both, pardon the pun, but we're both united in the fact that we both want to see the two clubs battle like that again, because it was just incredible. Really, really amazing stuff. So everybody that knows my channel will know that I've done a little bit of chat about Manchester United over the last few weeks. I did some FA Cup content when they won the FA Cup, something I was very happy about. And then I did a video recently that's got a lot of views on the Ineos situation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because we've got the perfect person to talk about that, a Man United fan. So I think we're in agreement. I mean, on my videos, I said, look, Ten Hag has to stay. There weren't any better candidates out there for a new Man United manager. And I didn't like the fact it took them as long as it did. How do you feel about it, mate? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous that we were, talking to other managers after Ten Hag had achieved what he'd achieved, beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final, who many call the best team in the world right now. I mean, when you do look at their players, Foden, Haaland, Rodri, they have an infinite list of, players and probably the best manager in the world. And to have actually beaten him and all the disappointment we've had in the Manchester derbies recently, the last three. Well, I mean, last year's FA Cup final, we literally conceded in the first 13 seconds to them. So they've just been a devastating club over the years. And the fact that Ten Hag was the one to end that losing streak and actually give us an amazing result, and we actually played really good football. The fact that Ten Hag was the one to do it, and we were considering other managers, I thought it was ridiculous, because not only has he done so much with the limited circumstances that he's under, not only has he achieved great things, there's no good replacement for him on the market. Pochettino, absolutely not as qualified as Ten Hag. We were looking at Kieran McKenna. Yes, he's done a great job to take Ipswich from the Championship to the Premier League, but that doesn't mean he's ready for Manchester United. You know what I mean? And we were also looking at Tuchel, and yes, he's won a Champions League, but he's also made Bayern Munich fall off recently. I mean, they went from winning the Bundesliga 11 years in a row. He came into the squad and they finished third, which, I mean, it's got to count for something, right? So I don't believe there's any manager on the market right now that is good enough to replace Ten Hag, and I'm very happy we decided to keep him, but it should not have taken 2 weeks to establish that. After we won the FA Cup final, we should have kept him, no questions. I don't know why it took 2 weeks, but thank God we made the right decision, and for the time being, Ineos have my backing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only one with the ilk to manage Manchester United was maybe Pochettino, but the other names were, I think, a little bit of an insult, really. Especially the likes of Graham Potter, and to an extent Gareth Southgate. I know he's done all right with England. Don't get me wrong, he has, but I don't see him as a Man United manager.
Anything worse than Southgate coming to the club, honestly. That's the fact that the links to Southgate kept going on for so long seriously frightened me, because one of the main issues I've actually had with Ineos is they have no problem being associated with rating this guy. And okay, yes, he's got England to a final, but he's also been at the club, 7 or 8 years and won nothing. And he goes into most international competitions with the best international squad in the world, yet can never seem to bring it home, as they say. And do I think he'd bring anything home for United? Absolutely not. If you can't do it, how can we be considering, or at least being linked with a guy that's won 0 trophies in 6 or 7 years when we've already got a guy that's won 2 trophies in his first 2 years? I think that's just ridiculous. But as I say, we made the right decision in the end.
Yeah, exactly. I think the two clubs and the two similarities between United and Arsenal were, first of all, is the history, but the second of all is the fact that we give managers time.
Yeah,
we gave
absolutely.
Wenger
And you have
time. Yeah, and you guys gave Ferguson time, and what an investment that was. Because obviously your greatest ever manager did some sensational things. Probably the best manager of all time, arguably. I think, to be honest with you, I think Pep's had more resources than Ferguson did. So I think what Ferguson did was better, probably, than Pep. I mean, what manager these days can manage a club for 27 years? I mean, Wenger 22, but
it's unheard of.
It's absolutely astonishing.
I think Arteta is actually similar to Fergie. I mean, obviously, Arteta's got to prove a lot before he can be compared to Fergie, but he's similar to Fergie in that he had a very difficult first few seasons. He finished 8th and 8th, whereas Fergie finished, I don't think he was even in the top 10, yet he was still given 4 years. And in the end, it came down to an FA Cup final, and he didn't lose. So they kept him in the job, and then he went on to win a treble and trophies for decades and decades. Arteta could seriously have that same journey with Arsenal, struggling first few seasons, but he's finally starting to pick up some rhythm. He does have an FA Cup under his belt, and I believe when Pep leaves, Arteta could be the one to win it. So I believe there's a lot of similarities between Arteta and Fergie. They both struggled, but once it, because they were backed by the club and not sacked. I mean, Ten Hag is being backed, and he could have that same journey, if you see what I'm saying. But if we sacked him, you just reset your progress. So thank God we didn't do that with Fergie, and I'm sure you'll be thanking God you didn't do that with Arteta, because now it's paid off.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we were saying on your channel, weren't we, a bit earlier on, that it's a blueprint now for other clubs. What Arsenal have done is a blueprint for Manchester United, and possibly others as well. I mean, I think, Chelsea, Man City, they've never behaved in the same way as Arsenal and Man United. And the reason I say that is because they're fickle with their managers. They sack managers like they're going out of fashion. The only one that City have kept around is Pep Guardiola. Obviously, they're not going to sack him because he's just got that reputation.
It's
But
amazing. I mean, Tuchel won a Champions
mm,
League with Chelsea.
mm,
Pellegrini won a Premier League, but he still ended up,
yeah,
as you say, the
yeah,
only one they've really stuck with is Pep Guardiola. I think that's impatience at the very top level to win the likes of a Champions League and a Premier League, and still, so like me and you as Arsenal United fans, oh, we die for those honours. To think
would
to sack a manager after winning that,
would
it's as you
exactly.
say, very fickle and ridiculous.
It is. It is. It is. So I think, although in my video I was very scathing about Ineos, I think they came to the right decision to keep Ten
Yeah,
Hag. I think it was the only decision that they could have made, really. But I do wonder whether the media pressure and the fact that United fans desperately wanted him to stay probably put that pressure on them, where they thought we just can't get rid of him. It's an untenable position to get rid of him.
yeah. I mean, I know the well. I felt the active need as a United fan to be one of those fans putting that pressure on Ineos, because we could not let them get away with sacking Ten Hag, because obviously there was reports from very trusted journalists before the FA Cup final that Ten Hag was getting sacked regardless of the result. He then goes on to beat City, our biggest rivals, and
Mm,
Ineos probably thought, oh, hang on a minute, if we do this, the fan, well, they could already tell the fan backlash was going to be unreal, because there were literally United fans saying, if you do this, we will march on Old Trafford and protest you out. We've been
mm,
protesting to have the Glazers out for many years.
mm,
You'll just become
mm,
one of them. You'll just become Glazers 2.0. So
mm.
I think they saw that would happen, saw that I'd like to think they saw that there was no better manager on the market, but they were talking to Tuchel. I'd like to think they came to the conclusion for the right reasons and not the potential backlash of the media. But I don't know. I'm just happy they've came to the right
Yeah.
decision. But I think they need to be doing it because they think it's the right decision, not just because they're scared of the backlash from the fans.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a win-win situation for them now, isn't it? Because they can say whatever happens. Oh, well, we backed him. He was our
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Well, that's
We had a
true.
look at
That
it.
is
We had a
true.
look at it. We decided he was our man. We've stuck with him. So whether they, whatever reasons that they did actually stay and keep Ten Hag, they will obviously jump on that and take credit for it,
Yeah,
which will probably suit them in better stead in the long run, because that will make United fans, I think, okay, well, they did come to the right conclusion in the end. I think what the Glazers have done to your club, I mean, it's astonishing. And we were talking about Old Trafford and the sort of dilapidated state of it, and
yeah,
the
mate. When
training ground
Arsenal, when you guys came
dilapidated.
to our
Yeah,
stadium, you saw firsthand how much the
yeah,
Glazers have let it rot. I mean, to have a massive hole in the roof and have paying fans that pay good money to come to those games get leaked
mm,
on is disgusting.
it is. It is, and it's also disgusting the way they've treated the club. And I think I can talk about the Cronkies at the very start of the sort of Cronky era. He
Yeah,
wasn't putting any money into the club. We as fans were just paying customers. It didn't feel like we were
yeah,
cared. And I think, you as United fans, that's probably to the power of, 100 with the Glazers, because they just seem like they don't give a damn about the
yeah,
club. And that's terrible, because Manchester United, whether rival fans like it or not, they're a great club with a great history. And I've always said that as an Arsenal fan. I
yeah.
appreciate the club and its legacy and its worldwide standing, because at the end of the day, it's the most followed club, I think, in the world, or it was
Yeah,
until not so recently. So,
I think
um,
you bang on about the owners owing it to the fans, because on the one hand, you've got a group of fans that saw United win the treble, win multiple Champions Leagues. Like, there were some United fans that will have been around long enough to see us win 3 Champions Leagues, and that's just an incredible feeling. But you've
mm,
got a new generation that are watching this United
mm,
and thinking that, oh, this is, obviously they can look back at highlights of when we used to be better, but this is all they're going to know. This is their football memory. It's unfair that this new generation, bear in mind, as you say, we're the most followed club in the world, this new generation of fans all over the world that care so dearly about this football club, are just being treated as if we're not cared about. And I hope Ineos are going to turn that around. But I think the players haven't been up to United standards for a very long time, minus a few great individuals that we can talk about and praise. But as well as the players, the stadium, and everything, there's just so many issues that have been left unaddressed. And as I say, for a club of United size, it's completely unacceptable. And you can imagine feeling the exact same if you were in our position as Arsenal fans. I think that we've got quite a few good players. As I say, Mainu, brilliant. Garnacho, brilliant. I really like Rasmus Højlund. I really like Lisandro Martinez. Onana is slowly improving. He's frustrating, but he is slowly improving. And there's a lot to be positive about. But these players can never go the extra mile if the owners don't get a handle on it. They're not going to want to stay at a club that's at 8th. They're great players, but there could be a better career out there for them. And I do not want to see them leave. So this is the main reason Ineos have to change things around quickly for the players and for the fans.
Yeah, they do. They really do. They need to ensure that they keep fan favourites at the club. Your Garnachos, your Kobbie Mainoo. I mean, he's just unreal. He's completely amazing.
And he's only a teenager. He's not even 20. It's crazy.
So what's his ceiling? What's his ceiling? Where could he get to when he's at his peak? I mean, he could be unplayable.
Do you know what, mate? I think Ten Hag made a fantastic point after we won the FA Cup final. In the post-match interview, he was asked about a similar question about Kobbie Mainoo and how far Kobbie Mainoo can go. And as much as Ten Hag does rate him, he didn't start praising him too much, because what he did say was, we have to keep it calm, because the British media are very good at hyping up these youngsters, these young talents. As soon as they have 2 bad games, you hammer them. And I think he was spot on with that. Absolutely spot on. So I think Mainoo's ceiling is very high. Don't get me wrong, but it's rough. It's tough to predict how far Mainoo can go when we don't actually know how far United can go. The future of our club is uncertain. If it keeps going in a positive direction, keeping Ten Hag, Ineos making good signings, if it keeps going in that direction, Mainoo can go right to the very top. But if he's left at a club that makes the complete wrong decisions, like the Glazers have been doing for so long, it will be very hard for him to reach his full potential. But I think his ceiling is, so far high.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think us Arsenal fans can relate, because obviously when Saka broke through, everybody was saying, "Oh, he's going to be the best player in the world." And he's a brilliant player.
And that's unfair to do with such a young player.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think he's still got some development in him. I think he's brilliant, but I still think he's got levels to go through in his game. So I think it's a very good point, and I think Ten Hag did the right thing, trying to reduce the pressure on him, because that will help him flourish next season. But without a doubt, he will not look like he's not meant to be. He looks like he's meant to be an England player. So him being selected 100%. For England was absolutely no fluke.
Mate,
but I think on the other side of that, Rashford.
That England midfield is scary. Mainoo, Bellingham, and Rice, absolutely incredible.
It is. And I think on the other side of hyping players too much, you got Rashford, who suffered as a result of overhyping. When he first came in, everybody was saying Marcus Rashford. They were saying the new FIFA game. Do you remember there was a player mode you could play as a? And they said, it's all based on Marcus Rashford. And I think it's sad to see what's happened to him. I think perhaps that is the pressure of football. And if you get this unrelenting pressure, you're not going to be able to flourish. So I think very good points made. Garnacho as well. They need to just be allowed to do what they're doing, enjoy playing in a United shirt, and be playing with quality as well. You've had some strange signings over the years. I mean, Pogba. The fact that Pogba didn't work out was a bit bizarre.
Yeah,
Because he's
especially
obviously
with
he's a
how
world-class.
expensive he was.
Yeah, yeah, 90 million quid, and it just didn't work out, did it? Which is, no one really knows why either. He just, fell out with Mourinho, and then he never really recovered from that.
Yeah,
But I think, at Arsenal, we've got players that with the fans have fallen in love with the current squad at Arsenal. And I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
that's what Man
100%.
United need as well. They need players where they can think, we really feel connected with you as a fan base.
Yeah,
You got it
because
with
you know
Mainu.
what?
You got it
In
with
Ten Hag's first season, I think we actually got
Mm,
a glimpse of what you're describing, the fans falling back in love with the club, because most of our fans have got sick of watching the terrible football we've been playing for so long. But
mm,
you got to remember there was
mm.
once days of joy, and those can come back. It's just, I think, a
Yeah,
long way to get there. So we've got to remain hopeful, but otherwise, what's the point in supporting the club? But yeah, it's just a shame that
absolutely.
you can relate as well. You've not really had any Arsenal side as impressive as the Invincibles, but there is hope because the squad you've got right now is definitely the best one since.
Yeah,
So just give it time, and
yeah.
mate, I think you only finished with a couple points less than the Invincible season this
Mm,
season, which shows how hard it is to be
yeah,
Man City. You have to be absolutely perfect, which is just annoying the
yeah,
league that we're in. But yeah,
yeah, yeah. It is tough, and I think I suppose the only thing with Man City, or 115 FC as I call them at the moment,
yeah,
is next season Guardiola's said that he's going to be going. Now, we saw what happened with Liverpool when Klopp came out and he said, "I'm going." The form just went right down,
yeah, yeah.
and could that happen to them as well? I hope it does. Sincerely, hope it does.
Well, I mean,
And maybe
it's
that will
it's
shake it
it's
up next season.
it's got to happen at some point because they're not. I mean,
Mm,
surely they don't do five in a row, or if they do that, surely they don't do six in a row. But we were saying the same about four in a row, three in a row, and then the treble, and they kept doing it. You wonder how. We're talking about ceiling again. What actually is Man City's ceiling? They're just a juggernaut with so much money,
mm,
and unless FFP catches up to them, because there's talk of potential relegation or a massive points deduction as punishment if they are to be proven guilty, as long as
mm.
FFP lets them roam free in the Premier League, not being took to court yet, they will dominate football for the next years to come. But yeah, it's just annoying that
Mm.
Everton and Forest fans have to suffer while Man City fans get to watch them win four in a row.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really, really unfair. And I think they're also drawing it out by taking the Premier League to court now, which is a joke, a complete and utter farce, just to basically push back the action against them as long as they
They
can.
think they're
And
bigger
again,
than the
it's just
Premier League.
cheating. They do. They do. They do. And my thing with them is I don't think they're good for the Premier League.
No,
Now,
no.
both of our clubs you've got an Arsenal fan and a Man United fan. We're both going to say that because we both, people will say, "Oh, well, you both hate City," but it's bigger than that. It's deeper than
Yeah,
that. It's the ethics of what they're doing is
yeah,
fundamentally wrong, especially when you've got clubs in the league. Man United, great history. Arsenal, great history. Liverpool, great history. Clubs with history and flair, and have done things in the right way. We should not be finishing second to a team that it's a cheating organisation.
no. And
And
also,
until
I
they're
think it's
stopped,
worth noting that I think it's quite suspicious that they're now suing the Premier League for the rules supposedly being unfair. If they were so confident in their innocence, why would they need to do that? So that just screams guilty to me.
it does. It does. It completely does. It's just pushing it down the road as far as they can, just to kind of keep it on the back burner, I suppose. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but we're both very much in the same mind. So we're going to shift gears. Then we're going to talk. We've got an Arsenal fan and a Man United fan. So what's the natural thing we're going to talk about is great games between the two clubs. Now, there's a lot to pick from, but I'm going to challenge you to name your favourite 3 Arsenal versus Man United games, and then I'll do the same.
Okay. That is a really tough question. I tell you what, I'll name you I'll name you my number 1 in my memory as a football fan. Just off the top of my head, I can't quite think of 3 because there's so many to choose from, because obviously it's a legendary rivalry and there's so much to pick apart.
It is.
I tell you what, it's between 2. So, do you were you watching Arsenal for the Invincible season?
Yes, that was when I got into football, actually, around that time.
Oh, wow. What a lucky time to get into football.
Oh, insane. That's why it's just that it's lit a lifelong love for football.
Yeah.
And Arsenal, of course.
I could have this slightly wrong. So obviously that Invincible season is one of the greatest achievements in Premier League history. Preston North End went invincible before it was called the Premier League, but Arsenal are the only team to ever do it. Well, not even just since it's been called the Premier League, in the last 110, 20 years. Which stands alone as an incredible season. And I could have this wrong, but I believe after that Invincible season, Man United were the ones to end the unbeaten streak.
Yeah.
So
on 49.
That game alone, for what it represented, and I think how impressive it was at the time, the ones to actually dethrone that, I think I'd have to put that as my number 1. I've obviously that was before my time personally, but it was just brilliant. And then the second favourite that actually was, well, my favourite that was from my time, we mentioned this briefly earlier, but David De Gea broke the record for the most saves in one match, in one Premier League match, against Arsenal, making a miraculous 14 saves in one game. Incredible saves as well, like double saves, getting to the ground, brilliant reaction time. And that alone for what the achievement it was. In my time of watching football, watching United games, every single one consistently, I'd have to say that stands alone as probably the most impressive. And in recent years, there hasn't been anything as good as that for me on my end of the stick, because Arsenal have been a far better team than us recently. And I think the last game we beat you was 3-1. It was the first time we met last season. So that's a good 4 games ago now. So, we don't have much luck against you these days. So, David De Gea making the most saves in a Premier League match ever. You literally could have won that. I think if it was Onana, I genuinely think you guys would have won that 6-3. I'll be honest. And Onana's improving, but if it was him, he wouldn't be making the saves that De Gea was. So they would be the 2 games I'd put forward. What about you, mate?
Good picks. Yeah, no, those are very good choices. And I mean, De Gea, what a servant he's been for Manchester United. I mean, I think the way he left was quite sad, really, in a way. But my favourite games, let's see now. The one this season, the 3-1 was pretty good.
Nothing beats a late winner.
97th minute. And the weird thing about that game was it was quite closely matched. And I think, Ten Hag's referenced that a few times, saying, we could have got a better result there if things had gone our way, etc.
We spoke about Garnacho. He actually got an offside goal that probably would have won the game. It made it 2-1, but it got given offside, and then obviously Hughes went on to win it. But I can understand that. It's a brilliant. It was a great game to be an Arsenal fan for.
Yeah, it was really good. And the only annoying thing for me was that was one of the games I wasn't able to get to. So my mate went to that one. Yeah, it was sad. But I watched the highlights, which was fantastic. The other one I'd say for me, there was one a couple of seasons ago where I got to see Cristiano Ronaldo at the Emirates. And he scored for you guys. He scored in that game. And we won that one 3-1 as well. Granit Xhaka with a bullet 35-yard hit.
He's gone to
at the end of
do
the game.
very well at Leverkusen as well, hasn't he?
He's done brilliantly. And Bruno Fernandes missed a penalty in that game as well.
Yeah.
I think he hit the post. And it was just a fantastic game to watch. And I was at the Emirates for it. And again, we took the lead quite early. Then Ronaldo got one back for you guys. And then you really put it on us in the second half. I think it was Ramsdale, fingertip save onto the post. And United were coming on very, very strong. And I think if they got the 2-2, that might have gone another way. And I think, again, it was a weird one because you were under Ralph Rangnick at the time.
Rangnick
and I think it's probably
was responsible for our lowest points tally in Premier League history.
Yeah. And it was a weird one because everyone expected you guys not really to turn up for it. But actually, we played quite well. And you did give us a good game. And it was a fantastic game. It was a bit of a classic, really, Premier League. And then the one that I think takes me back to sort of childhood memories, probably the 03-04 Arsenal Man United at Highbury. That was just a classic game, absolutely classic. But there are, in terms of sort of football heritage, Pizzagate, of course, is up there because of its infamy. And that was after you beat us and you ended our run, the 49 unbeaten run. And Ruud van Nistelrooy scored that penalty to avenge the one he missed a year earlier. Because obviously there's that scene, isn't there? Martin Keown jumping in his face and getting up around him, and he got Vieira sent off. And I mean, it's just so much history. But I remember he scored the penalty and he just screamed because it was just like release of all of that frustration that he had from not scoring the year before. So that was not easy to take. It was painful, but it was in terms of football heritage.
I do always wish that I got to watch football in the early 2000s and, see the Incredibles like Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, all fantastic players. And then on my end, we also had just brilliance left, right and centre. But I just, it's fantastic. And also, not just because the players were all great on both sides, because, I mean, just the competitiveness and the rivalry between, obviously, Fergie and Wenger, Roy Keane and Vieira, there was just, it gave Arsenal versus Man United games that extra bit of excitement that you don't really get these days.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, the funny thing is that Ferguson-Wenger relationship, I think, is very typical of where we've got to as two sets of fans, because Ferguson and Wenger hated each other. They hated each other with a passion at the start. And now they're mates and they go out for dinner together. So it's like, it's gone from sort of, that's it. It's gone from hatred to respect to actually having quite a bit in common. And I think that actually represents at the moment both fan bases,
absolutely,
because obviously we're used to sort of vintage Premier League, and because we haven't got it at the moment, we've got one that's still very exciting and entertaining, but we don't have the same. Those rivalries were just a different level. There was such fierce competitive spirit, I should probably give a shout out to The Overlap, Gary Neville's show, The Overlap. He had Keane and Vieira on it this time. It's a great watch.
Made for a fantastic watch.
If you support Arsenal, it was. I mean, if you support Arsenal or Manchester United, you need to get and watch that, because it was a fantastic show. And again, it was quite clear that Keane and Vieira, there was that respect there between them. I mean, phenomenal.
It's
some phenomenal battles.
It's a really nice thing to see how these people that hated each other on the pitch have actually gone on to work with each other and just have that mutual respect. The likes of Keane and Vieira, the likes of Wenger and Fergie, the likes of Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher,
absolutely. And I think that's it. I think, with Arsenal and Manchester United, I think we both clubs yearn to be where they were 20 years ago. what we both want, and we're getting there. We're getting there, but we're still
Slowly.
not quite there. That level of perfection, as you were talking about in Man City, it's hard to reach that. It's hard to get to that level. You have to quite literally get 95 points in a season to win the league, pretty much. And that's very difficult.
Even
but we're both on
Liverpool
our own.
have gone above that 95 points and still not won it. So even then, it's just like, what do you actually have to do?
Yeah.
I mean, us United fans complain that the Premier League is getting boring because Man City win it every year. Of course we do it. And, City fans say, oh, you guys are just bitter. And I'd say, well, of course we are. What do you expect? Do you think we're happy to see the same team win it over and over again? It's boring. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I just think it's ridiculous how good you have to be. I think the Premier League standards have become so high, and people will say, oh, well, you complain about the City era being boring, but United used to win loads. But I do not think Fergie's Manchester United was actually as dominant as Pep's Man City. Fergie didn't win 4 in a row or 6 out of 7.
Yeah.
So, yes, he did win a lot of trophies. But I think if Pep had 27 years like Fergie did, I think Pep would have won more. I think they are the more dominant squad.
Yeah, and that's well said, and that leads very nicely into our next discussion, because wanted to talk about the great football achievements. Now, whoever you support, whether you support Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, Spurs, go and watch the Amazon documentary on United's treble. If you love football, you'll love it. Okay, this isn't about who you support. It's just brilliant to watch. And it's about one of the greatest eras in football history. So go and watch that. But so what I wanted to really ask is, United and City both won the treble. So those both incredible achievements. And that's fair dues to both clubs. I think United did it in a better way than City. Because I think City have had a lot more money, a lot more resources, a lot more financial let's just put it like this: financial assistance from different areas. And so we've got those two incredible feats in football history. And then we've also got another incredible one. And this is why I'm going to bring in my Arsenal passion, the invincible team of 03-04 that never lost a game. So if we're ranking those, should we try and rank them 1 to 3 in terms of how good they are, or do you think that's impossible?
No, we can definitely rank them 1 to 3. Just before we get onto that, though, whilst we're on the topic of the Invincibles, who do you think is more impressive? The Arsenal Invincibles or the Leverkusen Invincibles? Because they've just gone the whole Bundesliga season, and they've also won the double.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Do you know what? I think if I take away my bias, I think it's very, very close, because Xabi Alonso didn't have the same history as Arsene Wenger. Xabi Alonso was a completely new manager going into that Bayern Leverkusen changing room. And he's got a phenomenal response out of the team. I suppose where I would argue is I think the Premier League is probably more difficult to do it in.
Absolutely.
But I think it's very difficult. I'd probably say Arsenal shade it, but that might be because of me being an Arsenal fan and being quite obviously biased on this one.
I would give it to Arsenal as well, because, as you say, it's a harder league to do it in. But you have to, Leverkusen still incredible. They went from never winning the Bundesliga to almost winning 3 trophies in one season and going invincible. Amazing.
Incredible. Yeah, and of course they were lovingly known as Bayern Neverlusen. This is a good little nickname for them, until they lost the Europa League final, which was, of course, pretty uncharacteristic because they hadn't lost all season. So
I know
that was a surprise.
Yeah, definitely.
But
anyway, to rank the 3 achievements,
rank 1 to 3. It's such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've got the invincible season, the only Premier League side to ever do it. You've got the United treble. I mean, so many close calls that just made that thing more impressive. As you say, that documentary is worth watching for sure. It just it's just uh, a very small testament to how impressive it was. I mean, even the final was just won in the most dramatic and Manchester United way. We are the club of late winners. We've even been doing that this season. We won in the very last minute against Liverpool. We won in the very last minute against Wolves. We won in the very last minute against Brentford. And I think we've just always had that about us. And we did it against Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, not just winning our second European Cup, but our treble, the first English club to ever do it. And then you've got Man City's treble. Obviously, we can talk about 115 and we can talk about how many resources Pep Guardiola's got, but you can't deny to batter Real Madrid 4-0 in their Champions League run is ridiculous. Real Madrid are the team that do not get battered. There's so many impressive things. Erling Haaland was just a robot. I mean, he broke every record. I think he scored 50 goals in 50 appearances or something, which annoyed me. The whole season annoyed me, but it was just ridiculous what they were doing. So all three achievements have so much merit. Where do you start, man?
I mean, it's incredibly difficult. I'm I'm going to be labelled a bottler on this one because I'm I find it very, very difficult to put this in order. You're right. City battered Real Madrid. They made Real Madrid look like a League Two side,
and Real Madrid are the one team that. Well, I mean, you even saw it this season. They were pretty much the only team that was actually capable of stopping City. It looked like they were going to win a double treble. Real Madrid are usually the hope, but even they got demolished. And you thought this team is full of just robots, and there's no way to contain them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just an incredible feat. And, you know, De Bruyne was on peak form that season. Haaland was almost untouchable in the Premier League at times. So I think they definitely deserve merit for it. You know, whether you know they had the resources or not. You're right. You know, you do need to put a little bit of respect on that because as an achievement, because it was an amazing achievement. Of course, I'm bitter that they pipped us to the league. But you know, arguably that was our own fault because we just lost it, mate. It was just I don't know what happened. I mean, you know, to be honest, people were saying that season we bottled it, and I think if I'm going to be honest, I think that season we did bottle it. Not this season.
This season has been very different. This season, you played fantastically well. I think you did as well as you could have done this season, to be honest, mate. Last season, there was some winnable games that you didn't win. I think you drew to Southampton. I think you drew to Liverpool after going 2-0 up against them. And just so many games that you probably should have won. And it's a shame because obviously I would have loved to see you do it. Because by that, at a certain point, United were actually in the title race themselves around January. But once we were out of it, it was all about Arsenal. So I was rooting for you guys as I was this season. And yeah, it's just a shame that you have to beat the juggernaut. But I just wish that the Premier League were a bit more diverse. It's been better this season. We've actually had 3 teams in the title race at one point for quite a while, but you can just tell City are going to win it in the end. They usually end up switching on towards the end of the season and going on like a 25-game unbeaten streak. Happens near enough every year, so it is very hard to stop them, unfortunately.
It is, and I think you know, if somebody said to me, you've got to decide. And you've got to rank them, and you've got no choice but to rank the achievements. I still find it really difficult.
It's very tough. It's very tough. I don't want to be biased and put United's treble first. I want to look at this as unbiased as possible, but it's incredibly hard because there's so many different things you can take away from each achievement. if I'm looking at it for how consistent the games were, I guess Man City probably had the best. Well, you could argue they had the best form out of their treble, out of the three achievements. But then again, you can't forget about Arsenal's form, going all season unbeaten, 12 games drew, and however many games won. That is ridiculous, and there's a reason that it's only ever been done once, right? So it's there's a lot of I'd actually rank, in terms of form of every competition, I'd rank United last, because we nearly bottled each competition on many different occasions. As I say, Champions League final, we were 1-0 down in the 90th minute and somehow 2-1 up in the 92nd minute. But yeah, I actually think in terms of form throughout each competition, you could argue it's either City or Arsenal that take the cake based on those three achievements alone. Invincibles, incredible. And there's just so many. I'll tell you what, I think the Invincible team could be, in terms of individual players, not the achievement, but individual players, the Invincible team could actually be the best of the three. I mean, so many legends all in one team. It was just unfair. And I think I'd give them that crown. It's tough to rank achievement, but I'd give them that crown. I think they're the best team out of the three achievements.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair of you to say that. I mean, I think there's a good shout for it, because obviously going unbeaten in the Premier League all season, and we know what games are like in the Premier League. You know, every team has a stinker on one of the games, and the fact that we didn't, and we might have played poorly in a couple of the games, but we didn't lose them, and you know, that's really difficult to do. I would probably go with us at the top for being unbeaten, and the fact that even Mourinho's Chelsea couldn't do that in 2004, 2005. They
That's
lost one
true.
game,
Even when they only
just one
conceded
game.
15 goals, they still didn't go invincible, which is a credit to how tough it is to pull it off.
Yeah, but all amazing achievements. You know, I did very much enjoy the documentary. So yeah, go and watch it. If you love football, you'll love that. So have a look at that.
And it's when you go back,
have a look at the Invincibles. There's a documentary on the Invincibles,
like Mourinho's Chelsea, Wenger's Arsenal, Fergie's United, that really make me wish I was just around watching those, because the early 2000s in football was just unmatched, and I've missed out on a lot, but I'm hoping that United can get back to the top, and you know, hopefully Arsenal can dethrone City, and we can start seeing more of that same diversity where we actually have loads of different league winners over the decade. The last decade has just been Man City dominating. So I'd like the Premier League to get back to that. Even if United aren't going to win it for 20 years, I just want the Premier League to be more diverse.
Yeah. And I think I completely agree with you there. And I think, you know, I feel the same about Man United. I'd rather be battling with Man United than I would be with Man City, because at least I know Man United are an honest club with an amazing history. So
not
there's exactly. So it's been really great having you on. Guys, go and follow Ben at United Talks. I strongly suggest you go and check out his channel. I will leave.
And we filmed a video on my channel as well, didn't we? We had a great discussion about all-time United Arsenal 11, which was so fun just to look at some of the greats that we've brought up in this video. But yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. So we'll just finish off with one final question, very briefly. What was your first moment that you remember where you remember supporting Man United? What was your first thing that you remember as a United fan?
So my oldest memory, it's tough to think of a game that stands out as a young United fan that I was just watching on TV. But one thing that will never, ever leave my mind, when I was about 7 or 8 and my mum first took me to Old Trafford, and it was a great experience. We beat Villa, and I got to. I'm trying to remember which season it was, but I think I definitely remember seeing Rooney score anyway, and that was just fantastic. So yeah, I think it was Villa anyway, but yeah, when I was about. I think I was about 7 or 8 and going to Old Trafford for the first time. That's my oldest memory as a United fan. And that really, really will always stick with me. I've been to a couple others that weren't as good. I remember going to a draw against Southampton. This is after Fergie left, so this is when it started to go badly. But it was good to see us when we were a lot better. What about you? What's your oldest memory as an Arsenal fan?
The 03-04 season, believe it or not, 8 years old seems to be the time that people start going to football, doesn't it? It seems to be the age. So my old man took me to Highbury to watch Arsenal versus Charlton Athletic, and we were up 2-0. Henry and Pires. Henry after 2 minutes, Pires after 4 minutes, and we won the game 2-1. And I remember saying to my dad, "Oh, I wish we'd scored a few more." It just shows how greedy we were back then.
Yeah. You can't get complacent with your team performing well because you don't realise how rare these seasons are. So it's very good to appreciate them while you're here. I was actually talking to my grandma, and she's a Man City fan, and we agreed that City got a bit complacent in the FA Cup final and just kind of was still a bit celebratory of the Premier League celebrations, and then didn't realise that they still had to stay switched on, and you have to keep up that same form, even though you win loads of things. You have to keep your head in the game because, you know, United wanted that game more than City did, clearly, because it meant more to us. We don't win major trophies. We don't beat City often. They probably thought it was just going to be a breeze. And that's why you got to appreciate the good times while you got them, because, you know, they were celebrating 4 in a row. A week later, we came and ruined the party. So you don't know how long it's going to last.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think they sort of took the double for granted and then they didn't get it. So, but, you know, I was very pleased about that. I was very pleased to see United win the FA Cup. It was a breath of fresh air, to be honest, to see somebody beat City. So respect to your club for doing that. So there we go, guys. A really great chat. I strongly, as I said, suggest that you follow Ben at United Talks. Links will be in the description. Please follow me. I'm AGN Football. Initially, I was Ardent Gooners Network. I'm now AGN Football. I'm an Arsenal fan, as you can obviously tell, but I also cover a lot of other content as well. Man United, other clubs. I just love football. I've been in love with football my whole life. So that is what I do. I'll put my links in the description as well. So please like, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you in another video very, very soon.
Great. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe to both of our channels. Thank you so much.